So this is the chapter which is called as protein synthesis and nucleic acid. As we have already done in chapter 2, that was of biological molecules, that you are having 4 macromolecules. Okay, you are having 4 macromolecules. What are those 4 macromolecules? You said that it's carbohydrates, it's proteins, lipids, and fats, or we combinedly call as lipids. But what was the 4th one? So this is 1, 2, and 3. The 4th one was basically called as nucleic acid. So today we are going to discuss in detail that what nucleic acid role have, how they are made up of, and what is its composition. So nucleic acids have basically a very important role of storage, number 1. But the most important role is the retrieval of the genetic information. And not only the retrieval of the genetic information, but by using this, they even help us to synthesize the polypeptides. I hope you remember the word poly means many. Peptides mean that it's going to have a lot of peptide bonds in them. So if you are having amino acids joined together with these peptide bonds, and if there are many amino acids, then it means it's going to form a polypeptide. So DNA is extremely stable. We are using a term over here, molecule. Okay, so DNA, which is deoxyribonucleic acid, is extremely stable molecule which replicate with extreme accuracy. And there is a code. We will later on study that it's called as codon. It's a 3-letter code. And that's very important because it's helping us for assembling of different amino acids. And amino acids are put into a polypeptide in a regular pattern and an accuracy. And this whole process is called as transcription. And this process is happening inside the nucleus. We discussed it later, before as well, that where it is happening. So this transcription is going to happen inside the nucleus. But there is another process that's called as translation. This is going to happen inside the cytoplasm. It means something has come out. If this is a cell, if this is a nucleus, and inside this have no nuclei. So inside it is happening transcription, and something is coming out of it, and something is happening inside the cytoplasm. This is the part where we can say that translation is happening. So this is for transcription inside the nucleus. So this whole chapter is basically about how proteins are formed, how they are very, very important for us, as we know that DNA is going to be exactly such kind of genetic molecule, which is also going to carry the instructions, and we sometimes call as a blueprint, which needs to be copied perfectly over and over again, generation after generation, so that from one generation, the exact copy of a genetic molecule can be passed to the daughter cell. That accuracy is very much important. And for this, obviously, most importantly, enzymes are also involved in it. So as you already know, deoxy means one oxygen is not present. Where? On the ribose sugar. So it's called as deoxyribonucleic acid. While for ribonucleic acid, you know that it's a single-stranded nucleic acid. So they are macromolecules, they have nucleotides, and what we used to use the term for DNA and RNA, that they are called as poly. Poly means many nucleotides. So this is a typical structure of nucleotide you need to remember for your P1 and for your P2 as well. That the base bone, you can say the backbone, and it's a sugar which is called as pentose sugar. You have any base attached on it. And I told you already there are 4 bases: guanine, cytosine, thymine, adenine. So as mnemonic is for you that government college. So from government college, you will always remember that G is always pair up with C. Means guanine is always pairing up with C, cytosine. So this is overall a structure which is in front of you, that you are having a phosphate group attached to it, as you already know in the phospholipid bilayer. It's hydro, philic in nature. It's going to allow the water molecules. So here you can see a rough picture. Okay. So basically two things, phosphate and sugar, they are going to form the backbone of DNA. Whereas you can see the rungs, these rungs, these are done by the bases. What are the bases? Like if this is guanine to cytosine, it must be adenine to thymine, or thymine to adenine, or cytosine to guanine. Okay, so look at the backbone. Deoxyribose phosphate. Deoxyribose phosphate. It means that ribose sugar, which is pentose, basically 5-carbon sugar, along with the phosphate is going to form the backbone of DNA. So here you are having 4 types of nitrogenous bases. Adenine, thymine. What is the backbone? Similar in everyone, in every nitrogenous base. That's a pentose sugar. How you regard this as a 5-carbon? 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So it's going to be a pentose sugar, which is called as ribose. Okay. So there will be one oxygen missing. That's called as deoxyribose, which is not going to be in the RNA. RNA will have all the oxygens present over there. Okay, then, so these are the 4. So guanine is always going to pair up with the cytosine, and adenine is always going to pair up with the thymine. Okay, so this accuracy is followed every time. You need to remember this. Okay, so mnemonic for government college will be best for you. Okay, as you know that DNA is a double strand. Let's suppose we have opened up it for you. Look, before it was like this. We just want you to open up and have a look over here. So look at this red colored thing. This is, going to be a backbone, which will be made up of obviously sugar, ribose, and phosphate. And what are the rungs along with it? Now I would like you to have a look. How many bonds are there from guanine to cytosine? How many bonds are there between adenine to thymine? So if I'm saying government college, okay, so it's going to be 1, 2, and 3 bonds. Look at adenine to thymine, only 2 bonds. That's another thing which I'll be discussing later in the later slides. So this accuracy is going to be very important. If I'm giving you, let's suppose if I'm giving you one order, let's suppose I'm giving you G, C, T, A, C. Can you make its complementary stand over here? What do you think? With which it will pair up? C. Let me just change the color so that you can see. For C, always G. For T, always A. For A, always T. And again for C, it's G. So we can have an idea of the complementary stand, what it could be. Similarly over here. So this accuracy is followed and you need to remember it. Now look at again a more elaborated picture. You can see that you have the pentose sugar ribose, which is basically, and phosphate. Sugar, phosphate, sugar, phosphate. And the base pairs are attached. And if I'm giving you one, this code, this genetic code, you can make the copy of it yourself. You can say that, okay, with cytosine, guanine will pair. With adenine, thymine will pair. Okay, so you can even have a look one and you can make the copy of it. And it's usually asked in the examination as well in P1 and P2. Look at the bonds. What are these bonds? These are hydrogen bonds. So there are 3 hydrogen bonds between guanine to cytosine and 2 hydrogen bonds in adenine to thymine. Now you need to remember what is codon. So to understand the genetic code in the DNA, we have to look at the sequence of the bases, which are arranged in triplets. 3-letter code. And we used to term this as codon. Okay, if I'm giving you this code, obviously you can make the complementary code by yourself. So this is a 3-letter code, and that's called as codon. And if I'm giving you this, what will be its complementary codon? This will be its complementary codon. You can even make your own self. Okay. So basically, as you know that uracil is the one which is present only in RNA instead of thymine. So as you know that this ribose is going to only have one difference with RNA, and that's going to be have one less oxygen. That's why called as deoxy. Now you need to remember the structure here. Okay, have a look now. This is a pentose. We have already done in the chapter 2, biological molecules. Look at carbon 2 here. But I already told how you need to number it. You have to just number the carbon exactly which starts from here in the right side of the oxygen. So this is carbon number 1. So you start numbering from here. Here, this is carbon number 1. Here, this is carbon number 1. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, these are pentose sugars. You need to focus on carbon 2 of both. I hope you remember there is no oxygen in deoxyribonucleic acid at carbon 2. So that's why we term it as deoxy. So this difference of one oxygen atom is very important. Why? You will ask why. So the answer for this is that the enzyme that recognizes the DNA and RNA, for them it's very important, because it will allow these two molecules to be easily distinguished inside an organism. And look how precise they will be by detecting only one oxygen atom at carbon 2. So have a look on RNA. RNA can never have thymine. It will always have, instead of thymine, another sugar that's called as, another nitrogenous base that's called as uracil. Okay, you don't need to remember exactly the structures, but I would like you to focus on one thing. Look at this. These are two ringed. You can say two ringed. Can you see? Even cytosine is also two ringed. But what about uracil? Look at this. Uracil. Okay, sorry. Adenine and guanine, they are two ringed, while cytosine and uracil is going to be one ringed. Can you see? Okay. So now they are going to pair up accordingly. If this adenine is going to pair up, obviously now instead of uracil, thymine with uracil, then you need to focus on the number of bonds that's going to make. That will happen basically in the messenger RNA when that will be, the copy will be made. Okay, so what is RNA? RNA is basically relatively short length as compared to DNA, the first difference. The second difference, the RNAs tend to be between in 1 and 100 and 1000, it ranges. It can have 100 nucleotides, it can have 1000 nucleotides. It depends that what role they have. So in RNA molecule, the nucleotides basically again contains ribose, but they are single-stranded. They are called as single-stranded. They have only one strand. But there are three types of RNA you need to remember. Number one, messenger RNA. The name tells you that it's obviously going to transfer the information or the message. Two, transfer RNA. Something is going to be transferred. Three, when it comes to ribosomal RNA, it means that something about proteins is going to be happening over here, either the manufacturing of it or either the production of it. So because that's why the ribosome term is used over there. So the three RNAs you need to remember for the protein synthesis: mRNA, messenger RNA, transfer RNA, tRNA, ribosomal RNA, that's rRNA. So let's think about messenger RNA. Can you see the picture? It's the cytoplasm, and this part is called as nucleus. I told you that one process that's called as transcription is going to happen inside the nucleus, while the translation part that was happening inside the cytoplasm. Now what is happening? Step one, there is something happening with the nucleus, inside the nucleus with the DNA. Your DNAs cannot get out from the cell. I'm giving you 1 minute to have a look on it. Then I'm going to ask question from you that what this picture is telling you. Just have a focus on it. 1 minute. Okay, so now look at here. First thing, have you seen it? So step one, what's happening that the synthesis of mRNA in the nucleus is going to take place, because you know DNA itself cannot come out because of these size. The nuclear pore is not too big. Your DNA cannot move out in the eukaryotic cell. What can come out is the messenger RNA, which is newly transcribed. It is basically the complementary of the DNA. It copies the code. It carries it out of the nucleus through these nuclear pore. You can see it's coming out. And then it comes into the cytoplasm. And here it will line up on the, ribosome. And it directs the synthesis of basically protein based on the original DNA code. So step one is synthesis of messenger RNA. Then that RNA goes out of the nucleus, movement of the messenger RNA into the cytoplasm via nuclear pore, and then synthesis of the proteins in the cytoplasm. So this is whole process, which is going to be, inshallah, explained in later much details. Then rRNA, ribosomal RNA. This is going to make up at least 50% structure of the ribosome. And our ribosomal RNA is very importantly acting as an enzyme in the formation of peptide links between the amino acids, which are brought to the tRNA. So RNA is basically located where? It's located in the cytoplasm of a cell. What RNA do? Ribosomal RNA do? It basically directs the translation of messenger RNA into proteins. So we can say that it's translating the message given by the messenger RNA. So for this, I would like you to even watch a video later, but right now, just have a look on the third type of RNA that's called as tRNA, transfer RNA. What transfer RNA? It brings or transfers the amino acids to the ribosomes that corresponds to 3 nucleotide codon of ribosomal RNA. Have a look over here. This is ribosome. Can you see? This is ribosome. Okay, this is the messenger RNA which was coming out from the nucleus. It is having a code on it. Can you see? It's having a code on it. And here you have a tRNA. It is having some anticode on it. That's called as anticodon. So the moment it will bind over here, these polypeptide, look at this. These polypeptide is going to be growing. And you can see, I will show you the video that how these proteins are going to be formed after looking at the, the code which messenger RNA brought. But before starting your protein synthesis, you need 1 to 2 more important things. Number 1, you need to know the sugars. You need to understand what is ribose, what is deoxyribose. I hope we have already done at carbon 12. Oxygen is missing in deoxyribose. Wherever you will find this purple ball, it means you will be finding it's going to have 1 to 3 phosphate groups. This is the base, the nucleotide base, and this is the sugar pentose. So when they all 3 combine, what you get? You get a nucleotide. And when nucleotides are formed, obviously that's going to be a condensation process. So here is a very important difference for your exam. That's what is the difference between DNA and RNA. It's going to be a very important difference. So the first difference is that RNA is going to be single polypeptide strand. while DNA is going to be the double. Okay, so your smaller molecular mass of RNA ranges from 20,000 to even 20 lakh. While if you look at DNA, you will find that it's going to be a larger molecule. It starts from at least 1 lakh. And then obviously it's more than even 150, 100 lakhs. So that's going to be a larger because it's a double helix. The sugar is same, but pentose is ribose, and for DNA it's deoxyribose. For RNA, the bases are, instead of thymine, uracil, but for DNA, it's adenine, guanine, cytosine, and thymine. That's very important, the next difference. Ratio of adenine to uracil and the ratio of cytosine to guanine can vary. Why? Because it's a single strand. There can be 3G. There can be again 2U. Because there is no complementary strand over here. But if I talk about DNA, the ratio of adenine to thymine, look, if there is 3A in one strand, obviously there will be 3T on the other strand. So the ratio is same. If there are 2 guanine in one strand, obviously there will be 2 cytosine on the other strand. The ratio will be same. It will not vary. So basically ratio will always be 1 to 1. Means the amount of adenine will be always equal to thymine, cytosine will always equal to the guanine. Okay, where RNA is manufactured, it's manufactured inside the nucleus, but can be found throughout the cell. And we studied that there are 3 types of RNA: tRNA, mRNA, and rRNA. I hope you remember the name. Transfer RNA, messenger RNA, ribosomal RNA. Only from out of these 3, messenger RNA is the one which is coming out from the nucleus. While for DNA, it's mostly in the nucleus. Even it's found its own in chloroplast and mitochondria. So DNA is present in mitochondria and chloroplast. So they both organelles have their own DNA. Amount of RNA varies from cell to cell. Obviously, if it's going to be more protein synthesis process taking place, like the one which are going to produce enzymes, they might have more RNA. While the amount, whatever is the species, it varies. If we are having 46 number of chromosomes, obviously the amount of, or you can say, whole molecule of DNA, one molecule of DNA, that will be obviously same throughout the species, except for obviously halving in the gametes and spores. RNA is chemically less stable, and we told that DNA is chemically very stable, extremely stable. There are 3 basic forms: messenger, transfer, and ribosomal RNA. But for DNA, it's going to be only one basic form. That's only, that, but its form can vary according to the bases it's have. So basically one base form, but it's going to have almost infinite variety in that form. Like the codons thing can be different, the codes can be different in different species. So this is the difference, very important. Now we are moving towards another important topic that's called as ATP, means adenine. For this, we say that it's adenosine, means it's combining with ribose. Tri means 3, phosphate, P for phosphate. So if you are having 1, 2, 3, it becomes adenosine triphosphate. If you have only 2 phosphate, it becomes adenosine diphosphate, ADP. And if it's going to be 1 phosphate, it's going to be AMP, monophosphate. So ATP, ADP, and AMP. So this is simple formula of ATP. You need not to remember more. You need to remember the base, sugar, ribose, and adenine, double ringed. Okay, another important thing. Up to 5 millions of nucleotides combine and they form a polynucleotide. But the backbone remains same, that's phosphate and ribose sugar. And where it take place in the mitotic cycle interface. Now, another important thing. Here, you're observing something is written 3 prime. Here you can see it's written 5 prime. It's anti-parallel to it. If this is ending at 5, this is starting from 3 prime. If it's ending at 3 prime, it's going to end at 5 prime. It's anti-parallel to one another. Look at this. If they both would have been like this, obviously how they can make their base. So if one strand is having this arrow at one side, the complementary strand will have the arrow on the other side. That's why the way they will pair up with G to C, A to T, G to C. How we can make G to G? If it's going to strand like this, here G, no pairing. So you need to basically make it twist, or you can say upside down. It need to be upside down. So then I say that it starts from 3 prime. So here it will be having 5 prime opposite to one another. So if this is ending at 5 prime, then this is ending at 3 prime, anti-parallel. But before understanding that, you need to remember that this linkage is called as phosphodiester linkage. These linkages are phosphodiester linkages. And these are the bonding of the hydrogen bonds. So you can see that the hydrogen bonds, 3 hydrogen bonds in G to C, 2 hydrogen bonds in A to T. Okay. So let's understand again about the bridge, that how it starts from 5 prime. So these covalent sugar phosphate bond, mean phosphodiester bond, they link the 5 carbon of one, means if I'm talking about here, this 5 carbon, and the 3rd carbon of the other one. So the polynucleotide is always having 3 to 5 prime ends that you need to remember. So in basically nucleic acid, the phosphate group, why it is present? Because it bridges between the carbon 3 and carbon 5 of the next. So it's kind of making a bridge between them. So consequently, we find the direction indicating that there is one 5 prime and the other one is 3 prime. So it's a part of your structure of DNA. You need to remember it. There's no science behind, big science behind it. You need to remember it. Okay, now have a look. This is your phosphate group. Got it? This is your phosphate group. You can check from here as well, the phosphate. Look at the adenine 2 ring structure, while thymine single ring. So the carbon atoms of the 5 carbon sugar here, they are numbered clockwise from oxygen 1 prime, 2 prime, 3 prime, and 5. So 1 prime is read as, look at here, you can see that this is read as 1 prime. This is read as 1 prime. This is read as 1 prime. Okay, what about 3 prime? Now you need to check one thing. I told you that 5 prime and 3 prime is very important. What is happening in both? Can you see? This 3 prime is attaching with the other 5 prime. This 3 prime is attaching with the other 5 prime. And who is attaching? The phosphates. Look at the phosphates, they are attaching it. So you need to remember that the 3 prime and 5 prime are the one which are attaching the other nucleotides together. So the phosphate group basically gives the nucleic acid their acid nature. Okay, now we are going to learn about the phosphodiester bond. Di means 2. So what is happening, that 2 hydroxyl group of the phosphate molecule binds to 3 prime and 5 prime carbon. Have a look. 3' and 5'. So can I say that this is 3' to 5' phosphodiester bond, phosphodiester linkage? And how it is happening? It is happening to condensation. So we'll be removing 2 water molecules. The phosphate is again going to bind with the sugars with 2 ester bonds. Hence we term it as phosphodiester bond. Okay, find where we are having 2 ester bonds. Can you find it out? One will be at 3. One will be at 5'. This binding is basically phosphodiester binding. And the reaction involves some enzymes like ligase. Ligase is always for gluing. It kind of acts as a glue material, binding of something. Again, have a look. Now you need to understand about the parallel, anti-parallel nature. So the DNA molecules are basically made up of 2 polynucleotide strands. This is one strand. This is the anti-parallel strand. The strands are said to be anti-parallel because they exactly run opposite directions. And these are held by the hydrogen bond. Let's have a look. Give 1 minute to have a look over here. If they start from 3', it's going to end at 5'. So what will be the parallel, anti-parallel for that? 5', 3'. Imagine if you say that no, we are going to stand the 3 in front of the 3. Will these bases come in front of each other? No, they won't be able to. So for basically making them, facing them one another, you have to basically have the anti-parallel thing. Have a look again from this diagram. So this is 3' end, this is 5' end. Okay, imagine that we are going to have the 5' end again over here. Look at here, at 5' end, you are having cytosine. Can cytosine pair up with adenine? No. Then the next one is basically, this is, let's suppose this is thiamine. Can thiamine pair up with guanine? No. So this is the way you need to have this. Look at the guy, guanine always need to pair up with cytosine. That's why the one, strand is parallel, the other one will be anti-parallel. Look at the shape now. It's twisted like this. And it's just kind of, if I'm drawing a hand like this, let me draw, if I can draw, if this is your thumb, these are your fingers. So I'm twisting it down and your thumbs are matching over here. Like this. And now your finger starts from here. So I'm sorry for the bad drawing of hand, but this is how this is anti-parallel. Okay, one had, but the bonds are formed between the thumbs. Okay, that now let last time again understand this I hope anti-parallel thing is clear to you people. Is it?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so now this picture is again giving you another clear picture. The 3 bonds between guanine to cytosine, while 2 bonds between the adenine to thiamine, and how they are now having, one is starting from a 3', the other is going to start from the 5', opposite to each, anti-parallel. The complementary base pairs. The next concept is purines and pyrimidines. You need to remember the purine bases are thiamine, uracil, and cytosine. Can you see they are single ringed? They have single rings. Look at purines, double ringed. Got it? So your one purine matches with one pyrimidine, like guanine is going to match up with this. So one purine match with one pyrimidine. Okay. So this thing you need to remember. So purines are double string, double stranded, you can say, or double sugars, while pyrimidines are single sugar. You need to remember a bit structure of it, right? Because there are a few questions in which examiner asks from you. Look at the purines, they are double string, double ring. You just need to remember this, that they are double ring. Look at pyrimidine, they are single ringed. Got it? So there's nothing more you need to remember for that. You don't need to remember what groups attached on it. Here's an again one picture of your DNA. Look at the pairing, look at the precise pairing, look at the number of hydrogen bonds between them. So if I'm talking about starting from here till here, this is complete one turn. How many base pairs it will have? 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Till here, 10. This whole round starting from here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So this is going to be the 10 base pairs, means adenine, guanine, cytosine, thymine in one turn. And I already told you, you need to remember the mnemonic for government college. And I told you that the ratio will be same in DNA. Amount of guanine will always equal to amount of cytosine. The amount of thymine will always equal to adenine in DNA. But in RNA base, because there is no complementary base pairing, so it can vary. Now, you need to remember that uracil can form exactly same hydrogen bonds like thymine with adenine. Why? Because it's very important during the transcription when messenger RNA will be made according to the DNA template. So in short, we say that the code travels from DNA, which is inside the nucleus, via messenger RNA, and then it transfers to tRNA for making proteins. The ultimate goal is protein. The last step is this, to make protein. So what is the first step? That is the conversion of this RNA, DNA into RNA, giving its, all the message that's called as transcription. So DNA is obviously called as double helix, and there are hydrogen bonds in between them. And if they are broken, and they can be broken easily. And it is broken from here when the replication starts for the manufacturing of the proteins. And why they are broken? So that we can make a template for that. So this first step of DNA replication is basically breaking of the bonds, breaking of these hydrogen bonds. This is the first step. It's very important that your DNA molecule enables to perform this role.